is happening, gang? It's your boy Retro back again with another reaction video. Yeah. Today we got another huge update. Now, you guys can probably already tell that it is going down. Just by that title alone, you guys are definitely going to want to check this one out. So we got that Democratic mayor of Chicago, Brandon Johnson, now nowhere to be found as calls for his arrest grows. And this comes following the news of potential coordination between him and Mexican cartels to target and place bounties on ICE agents. Guys, I'm excited to get into this one, so we're not straight into it. All I ask that you guys please hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and without further ado, let's hop straight into it, folks. Check this one out.
Standoff in the street happening after two illegal migrants from Venezuela were arrested for allegedly ramming their vehicle into a Border Patrol SUV.
Todd Pyro joins us with more. Todd.
Yeah, it doesn't seem to be getting better in the Windy City. Good morning to all three of you. Illinois Democrat Governor J.B. Pritzker blasting federal agents for using tear gas to disperse violent crowds of anti-ICE rioters. Pritzker saying, quote, ICE is recklessly throwing tear gas into our neighborhoods and busy streets. The Trump administration must stop their deployment of dangerous chemical weapons into the air of peaceful American communities. But those protests were anything but peaceful. Prior to the deployment of the tear gas, Chicago police were trying to de-escalate an anti-ICE mob when people in the crowd began getting violent. Chicago PD confirming the incident, saying, quote, individuals began throwing objects at the federal agents, at which point the federal agents deployed tear gas into the street. Now, this mob began to form after the arrest of two illegal migrants that DHS says rammed their vehicle into a Border Patrol SUV and then attempted to flee the scene. The driver and the passenger involved in the pursuit were Venezuelan nationals who entered the country illegally. The driver, an ICE fugitive, who was ordered to be removed in August of last year. Once the two were taken into custody, that crowd began to form. DHS saying, quote, the incident is not isolated and reflects a growing and dangerous trend of illegal aliens violently resisting arrest and criminals ramming cars into our law enforcement officers.
All right, folks, so we're seeing that the climate and the tensions over there in Chicago, that Windy City, is doing everything but getting better as we continue to see more and more assaults on ICE agents as the days go on, with two illegals now taking upon themselves to ram the patrol cars of DHS and ICE officials. And if you guys thought this was bad, wait till you check this one out. We now are seeing Mexican cartels teaming up with left-wing terror networks inside the United States to hunt down ICE agents, placing bounties, cash bounties on their heads and on border officials. I want you guys to check this. This is really bad.
$5 to $10 grand for kidnapping of ICE agents or Customs and Border Patrol agents, non-lethal assault. $50,000 for the assassination of high-ranking officials. Here's Greg Bavino. He works in Chicago. Says he had a bounty on his head. Watch.
We've got $50,000 bounties on the heads of federal law enforcement officers. We have criminals ramming vehicles, criminals bringing guns to protests. This is not regular street crime here in Chicago. We have assaults on Border Patrol agents, ICE officers, and our allied law enforcement agencies every day, often multiple times per day. And again, these assaults, the lethality of these assaults is increasing.
How can your officers respond to that effectively?
Well, there's power in numbers. There's safety in numbers. Secretary Noem, ever since that terror attack we saw in Dallas, she's been hardening our ICE facilities. President Trump has called in the National Guard, a very prescient and great, strong leadership we've seen from the President of the United States. But, I mean, we are seeing a coordinated, highly organized waging of war on our law enforcement on the streets of Chicago. These men and women are simply enforcing the rule of law and doing their job, and yet there's these foreign terrorist networks who are going after them. They're using a tiered system of bounties to go after them, whether it be doxing their family members, kidnapping, even murdering these brave men and women.
This is sad and disgusting behavior that we're seeing displayed by these loonies on the left. I believe this takes things a step too far, because I'm all for advocating for First Amendment, freedom of speech rights, the right to get out there and protest for what you believe is right. But this right here, hiring and placing bounties on agents' heads, that right there is taking things a step too far. But despite the assaults on ICE agents continuing to grow, we're still seeing Fat Cat J.B. Pritzker, that governor of Illinois, pushing his lies and demonizing ICE agents. I want you guys to see this one.
Of course, the shooting and killing of the man in Franklin Park, where at first they said the officer was seriously injured and being dragged, and then later you heard no serious injuries. But the initial report out of ICE was this release that said something terrible had happened by this man that they shot and killed. So you can tell they lie every time, it seems like. So we can't believe it when they say it. We do have to do our own investigations. And that's why it's so vital that people are pulling out their phones and filming.
You know, at the same time, Border Patrol Chief Commander Gregory Bovino has said that you have escalated the threat level that they're facing. Their agents are getting doxxed. Their agents face threats. You call them things like jackbooted thugs. Are you adding fuel to the fire here to this tinderbox?
Now, you remember this is the same guy that goes around thinking he's a social media influencer, filming himself saying provocative things. They brought cameras around the South Shore building when they attacked that building and took, there are 130 people who live in that building, and only a few were being targeted as gang members, and yet they arrested, detained the entire building, including children and the elderly. So Gregory Bovino lies consistently, as does Kristi Noem, the president, the vice president of the United States.
And this right here is exactly what we talk about when we say inflammatory and dangerous rhetoric coming from the Democratic leadership over there in Illinois. I mean, J.B. Pritzker does not make things any better. He makes matters worse, as a matter of fact. With the things that comes out of his mouth, he continues to demonize ICE agents and officials who are trying to clean up the city, clean up his state that he's continuously ignored. It doesn't make any sense to me why he continues to push out this very inflammatory rhetoric. And then to make matters even worse, we're now seeing J.B. Pritzker coming out threatening to prosecute ICE agents in the future underneath the next Democratic president. I want you guys to, this guy has lost his mind.
The tables will turn someday. These people should recognize that maybe they're not going to get prosecuted today, although we're looking at doing that, but they may get prosecuted after the Trump administration for the things that they did because the statute of limitations won't have run. We had the immigration services, ICE and CBP doing their jobs before the Trump administration, but they were doing it within the law. Now they're acting like a bunch of thugs and taking away people's free speech rights. They're taking away people's rights, by not identifying themselves. They're coming in with masks on. They're coming in with unidentified vehicles. These are all things that need to be taken up, again, by an inspector general or somebody investigating at the federal level because they have immunity at the state level. But we're looking at how we might be able to hold them responsible despite the fact of federal immunity.
Okay, once again, J.B. Pritzker, Fat Cat Pritzker, showing us that he is not fit to be the governor of Illinois. I mean, he says the quiet part out loud, and you just have to believe him when he says these things. Now saying that underneath the next Democratic president, they're going to turn a selective and political prosecution on those agents and officials who cleaned up the migrant and crime crisis in his state, doing his job for him. You just cannot believe the nerve of some of these individuals. But wait, he does not stop there. He takes things a step further over on ABC and continues to push his lies, falsehoods, and attempt to gaslight the public on the true crime in Chicago right now, the current state and the crisis that his residents are facing. Just listen to the way this guy lies.
In Chicago, we've cut the homicide rate in half. We've got double-digit declines in all of our violent crime statistics. He says that we've got the highest crime rate in the entire world. That's ridiculous. We're not even in the top 25 cities in the United States. And Illinois itself is the 19th safest state in the United States. I'd like to be in the top 10, but 19th is a whole heck of a lot better than Texas or Florida.
Fat Cat Pritzker once again sticking to his old guns and saying that there is no problem, there is no crime or migrant crisis in his state. It's all a figment of our very silly imagination. But we got Vice President J.D. Vance saying the complete opposite, where he exposed these lies and falsehoods coming from J.B. Pritzker. Just listen to it.
Governor Pritzker will talk a lot, I'm sure, about how bad Donald Trump is, about how bad I am, and about how bad the administration is. He is the governor of a state that where its biggest city has murder rates that rival the most violent places in the third world, George. Why is he so mad at Donald Trump for trying to keep Chicagoans safe? He should be mad at the criminals that he has failed to keep at bay. We're trying to help him, and we're trying to help the residents of his biggest city. I wish that he would let us, because he certainly isn't doing the job himself.
Vice President J.D. Vance hitting that nail smack dab on its head, where he sends a very direct and simple message to Governor J.B. Pritzker to step aside and allow them to do his job for him, clean up the migrant and crime crisis that his residents are calling and crying for help over. I mean, it just does not make sense, and it baffles me that these folks want to continue to let this thing run out of control. It's almost like they're being paid or put up to do so. And it's not just Trump administration officials that feel this way. We've also got Chicago residents chiming in and calling out J.B. Pritzker, calling out Mayor Brandon Johnson to say, hey, you guys are lying and attempting to gaslight the public on the true crime that we're seeing, the migrant crisis that we're seeing in our city, in our communities, and we're fed up.
It took Trump 2 weeks to clean up the crime in Memphis. The residents are saying they never felt this safe. They're showing that the kids they are outside playing, and they're saying that they haven't heard gunshots. They've never been able to feel this safe. And some residents are saying in 5 years. And you expect the Democratic Party, Brandon Johnson and J.D. Pritzker, expect us to believe crime is down. I keep telling you all, it's nothing you can tell us. When crime is down, the residents will know crime is down. We feel it. We can tell it. We know that we are safe. We can go outside and say, hey, crime is down, because we know what's going on in our community. How dare Brandon Johnson and J.D. Pritzker try to convince us in Chicago that crime is down when Brandon Johnson have 150 police detail following him and his family around everywhere they go. Pritzker, he don't even be in Chicago, and the place he had that he live at that's in Chicago have gates, cameras, police details all around it. These crooks, we keep allowing these crooks to tell us what's going on in our communities. I keep telling you all, when crime is down, when crime is really down and we don't have the things to worry about in our community, like shootings and murder and carjackings and things like that, we can tell that. We know that, because we can feel safe. We would feel safe in our communities. We don't need no lying, crooked politician to lie and try to convince us that crime is down. We can tell it. We can feel it. We'll be able to go outside in our communities and feel safe. We already had to deal with our gangs and our criminals in our communities. Then you come and dump thousands of illegal alien gang members into our community, and somehow you want to convince us that crime went down after that. Yeah, okay. I'm so tired of these people trying to convince us that we're safe in our communities when we know we are not. And for you all to allow these crooked politicians to lie to you and tell you this, it's a slap in our faces. They really think we're stupid. Wake up, Chicago, Memphis. I'm so glad that you all feel safe in your community. Please get on your elected officials and vote these people out.
So there it is, once again coming directly from the horse's mouth. And I told you guys, this is not just the Trump administration picking and pulling this thing out of thin air. This is residents calling and crying for help, but the Democratic leadership over there in Illinois and Chicago continues to turn a blind eye and a deaf ear on all their calls and cries for help. And the Trump administration is simply saying, hey, we've had enough, we've seen enough, and it's time to finally act on the problem. And speaking of being called out, we also have residents calling out Mayor Brandon Johnson, saying that he needs to drop his taxpayer-funded security detail of over 150 police officers, costing the city $22.5 million in salaries alone each year. If he claims the city's so safe, he does not need this 150 police security detail. I mean, it just makes the most sense, right? You got a safe city, you don't need all that.
Over the last week, I've literally interacted with over 300,000 plus real Chicagoans who say that it is hate speech for you to evoke the Civil War, to evoke bringing back the Confederacy, to say that law enforcement is a sickness when you yourself have over 150 sworn police officers on your detail. What do you say to these people, and will you ask your 150 sworn police officer CPD detail to stand down if you and your wife Stacy are ever attacked, shot at, or rammed with a protester vehicle?
First of all, I'm sorry to hear that your numbers of interactions have gone down to only 300,000.
Actually, millions, but personally, I've interacted with over 300,000, believe it or not.
It went down this week.
No, it's going up. Higher than yours, by the way.
Okay.
By the way, check out your comments. Check out the comments on your feed.
I think it's important to be able to make sure that to the people that you're talking to, though you're talking to less and less people every week, is that they know the truth. Here's what I've said. That the addiction on jails and incarceration and the addiction of militarism, it is an evil. Dr. King made that very clear.
Really?
He did. And so I believe it's incumbent upon us to make sure that the real Chicagoans or the real people of America, instead of sending billions of dollars overseas, we should be spending it on the people right here in the city of Chicago.
Once again, Mayor Brandon Johnson looking like a deer caught in headlights every single time he is confronted with the truth. I mean, if the city is so safe, as safe as he claims, he would not need, there would be no necessity for 150 police personal security detail around the clock. You got a safe city. You don't need all these police officers. Let them go ahead and roam the streets, protect the citizens, protect your residents. Doesn't make sense to me. But you see, his answer, his non-answer is an answer of itself. You can see that he knows that there is a crime and migrant crisis in his city, yet he continues to ignore it. Turn a blind eye and a deaf ear. It's just disgusting behavior. But this wasn't the last time Brandon Johnson was called out to his face. We also have Ben Bergquam ripping into Mayor Brandon Johnson and also Governor J.B. Pritzker. He has Mayor Brandon Johnson, if he's prepared to be arrested. I just want to bring us back to when we seen Letitia James being called out and asked if she was ready to be put in cuffs, and ultimately got indicted. So I don't know if this is a little bit of foreshadowing, but we may see history repeat itself in this situation with Brandon Johnson being questioned if he's prepared to be arrested, and he even went as far as to ask Governor J.B. Pritzker if he's receiving funds from cartels to put these bounties on ICE and Border Patrol agents.
Making America a place where every single individual can have an opportunity, then he should use his authority to work with the city of Chicago to build more affordable homes. He has the ability to help invest in building more economic opportunity. We are going to defend the interests of working people, and we're very proud to do that. Thank you all.
What about the illegals that are victimizing the citizens? Mayor Johnson, what about the illegals that are victimizing American citizens? You've sold out the citizens. Excuse me, sir. You've sold out the citizens. Excuse me, sir. You've sold out the citizens of Chicago. Are you prepared to be arrested?
Johnson runs away.
How much money was spent on protecting illegals? Governor, how much of the citizens' money was spent on protecting criminal illegals? Are you receiving any funds from cartels, sir? Are you receiving any money from the cartels? Or is Mayor Johnson receiving any money from the cartels?
Should he go through you or around you? Tom Holman. Should he go through him or around him? Which is
Oh my, it brings me so much joy to my heart to see these folks being called out straight to their faces. You can't allow them to just sit behind these cushy desks and 150 police and security details. You have to call these type of individuals out to their faces. It really does bring me a different type of joy. And we see Mayor Brandon Johnson, the sub 6% approval rating mayor, actually being booed off stage at his last public appearance. I mean, this man is just unfavorable among residents and citizens of his city. They know exactly what he's up to, and they're not going to stand for it. Oh my, and I told you guys, this brings pure joy to my heart and soul to see these folks being called out and confronted straight to the faces. Speaking about being confronted, we got President Donald Trump in a Truth Social post last week coming after Mayor Brandon Johnson, that Governor J.B. Pritzker, where he said Chicago Mayor should be in jail for failing to protect ICE officers. Governor Pritzker also, and I'm totally with him. And we also have the response now coming from Governor J.B. Pritzker, where he sends threats to President Trump about throwing him in jail.
It's true that the president says things, and sometimes he follows through on those threats, and he certainly has the power of the presidency. He does not have the power to overcome the Constitution. And so am I afraid? I am not afraid. Do I think that he could do it? He might. But as I've said before, come and get me. I mean, you're dead wrong, Mr. President and Mr. Vice President. And I will stand up for the law and the Constitution. That's what we do in the state of Illinois.
All right. The unwise words of Governor J.B. Pritzker, come and get me. I'm not afraid. Well, my family's always said you don't have to be afraid of trouble or getting in trouble to actually get punished. And that's what J.B. Pritzker is walking himself into. I don't think this is the road that he wants to travel. Of course, we're going to take this time to review. The internet is in a frenzy behind Chicago, Illinois, the Democratic leadership over there, and now seeing that there are Mexican cartels working possibly in coordination with these officials to put bounties on ICE and Border Patrol officials. I want you guys to see and go through a couple of reactions from folks on the net. We're starting off here with our friend Gunther Eagleman, where he says, Pritzker is a failed governor. You can't forget his flunky and his partner in crime, his sidekick, Mayor Brandon Johnson. Both of them go hand in hand. A failed governor and a failed mayor, just absolutely failures, failing their city, failing their state, and all the folks that voted them in. And that's why we're seeing that Mayor Brandon Johnson slipped to a sub 6% approval rating. You have to work. I mean, that's almost a skill. You have to work very hard for that many people to dislike you. And next up, we have our friend Bubble Bath Girl here on X tweeting out saying Democrats did this by demonizing ICE. And that's exactly how we got to this current situation in the climate that we find ourselves facing. I mean, it was not this bad whatsoever when the Trump administration originally said that they're going to increase ICE officials and ICE presence in these sanctuary cities. Up until Democratic leadership started to demonize and spew hateful, inflammatory, and very dangerous rhetoric on the ICE agents, it was not this bad. We didn't see folks taking such drastic measures to assault and attack our agents. It's just sad to see that this is what they want to condone and continue to green light. Next up, we got Buster here on X. The question for the Trump administration asking, why are the governors and the mayors not being arrested? He then goes on to say to assign an honest judge to this issue specifically and prosecute the insurrectionists. And it's just as simple as that. We have to hold these folks accountable. Draw that line. Go ahead and draw that line in the sand so these folks know going forward, from this point going forward, you don't cross this line or you will be arrested and removed. That's what we're waiting to see. I mean, I want to see some accountability and some action from the Trump administration on these very rogue officials. And last up, but certainly not least, I think this is a great point and question that Loose Change, our friend here on X, tweeted out asking. He wants to know, is this guy, and this guy referring to Governor J.B. Pritzker, he says, is this guy working with the cartels or something? I'd love to know. He then goes on to say, what's with him and Mayor Brandon Johnson? It just doesn't make sense. Whose side are you guys on? I really would love to know. He then concludes it with saying, honestly, the fact that it's gotten to this point is really disturbing. And it just really just drives that question home. Are they working or coordinating with the cartels of some sort, working with Antifa? I mean, the way that they've coordinated with activist judges to remove, gating around ICE detention facilities that were being attacked by protesters and Antifa, it just says a lot. The way that they're coordinating and continuing to put these illegal aliens and violent protesters ahead of citizens and residents that are actually, voting them in, that are paying taxes. It doesn't make much sense to me. So I really want to know. I think we need to have a thorough investigation into this situation for sure. Yo, there we have it, guys. Oh my goodness. Talk about things heating up, getting very spicy over there in the windy city of Chicago, with Democratic leadership continuing their fight, their efforts to stop President Trump, his administration, every step of the way, from answering the calls and the cries for help coming from the residents of their state, their city. Makes no sense to me, other than maybe these folks have, pride and ego, political problems, vendettas against President Donald Trump. They don't want to see him with that accomplishment underneath his belt to say that, hey, I came into your city, did your job for you, answered the cries, the calls for help from your residents, and now folks are more high up on me. Now folks are jumping across saying, I don't know if I want to support the Democratic Party anymore. I think I want to support the Republicans, because they got people like President Donald Trump that'll put politics aside and say, if there is a crisis in any American city, state, we're going to come and address it. Another reason why I believe, or I'm speculating, that these folks may be standing in the way of the Trump administration, or attempting to, because we can see that Trump officials are not stopping. They're full head, full steam forward. They're going to get the job done, regardless if you want to stand in the way or not. They're going to move around you or move through you. But another reason that I believe, or suspicion for me, is that these folks are getting some type of a bribe, reward, some type of kickback coming from these left-wing Antifa groups or these Mexican cartels to continue to try to, condone or green light these assaults on ICE officials. And that's just disturbing to hear. But guys, definitely want to hear what you guys are thinking. The question for today is, do you believe that Democratic leadership like that Mayor Brandon Johnson or Governor J.B. Pritzker are working hand in hand with Mexican cartels to, green light these bounties on ICE agents? I really want to know what you guys are thinking. So hop in the comment section, let me know your thoughts. Also, make sure you guys please hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. If you enjoy more content like this, catch you guys in the next one.